to jump into what we're talking about today on the podcast. The Would you agree that if you had the audio today, it's an open and shut case? I mean, we're going to be able to see if the county is telling the truth about this case. Is Mustafa arguing? Is Mustafa not arguing? So, therefore, the audio to this dash camera, we would agree that it's important information. Now, important in legal terms, it would mean exculpatory evidence. Exculpatory means important evidence. Inculpatory means information that's not important. So we would agree that the audio in this dash camera is exculpatory evidence. Would you agree that if you had the audio today, it's an open and shut case? dash camera is exculpatory evidence. Would you agree that if you had the audio today, it's an open and shut case? I mean, we're going to be able to see if the county is telling the truth about this case. Is Mustafa arguing? Is Mustafa not arguing? So therefore, the audio to this dash camera, we would agree that it's important information. Now, important in legal terms, it would mean exculpatory evidence. Exculpatory means important.
Science and magic. But to me, as a poet, it's also about words and stories, and just how powerful they can be. The two trials that shaped the life of this little girl are emblematic of a much bigger story. The transition between a pre-modern world and our supposed age of reason. And yet our fear of evil has never really gone away. Neither, some say, has evil itself.
Just snap a photo and list in minutes. Easy, right? Once it sells, the buyer covers shipping, so there's no cost for you. And with zero selling fees, you keep everything you earn. With millions
and low cost.
Fear of evil was endemic in England 400 years ago, when King James I was on the throne. James was living in fear of Catholic rebellion in the aftermath of the Gunpowder Plot. Recently arrived from Scotland, the New Kingdom were particularly troubling. Lancashire was a long way from London in many ways, described by somebody at the time as a dark corner of the land. It had a reputation for disobedience, full of troublemakers and subversives. And this area, not far from where I live, dominated by the strange brooding presence of Pendle Hill, was almost beyond the back of beyond. Today, it's an odd niche by trading on its dark past. In 1612, the 9-year-old Janet Devis lived in obscurity at her grandmother's house, Malkin Tower. Malkin Tower. It sounds grand, but it wasn't. Malkin was actually seven less grandly, referred to as Mocking Tower. And according to some people, and not to put too fine a point on it, mocking is a local word for shit. Nobody knows for sure where the house would have stood, but recent research suggests Janet and her family survived mainly by begging and by doing odd jobs for neighbours, but the family did have one other source of income and, I suppose, a kind of power. Janet's grandmother was well known locally as a cunning woman, and everyone knew her as Old Demdike.
The role of the cunning woman is an incredibly valuable one, especially for poor people who don't have, say, to doctors. And there's all sorts of modern roles rolled up into one, as sort of a social worker and a policewoman and doctor, all those things that give people a kind of security about their otherwise anxious lives. But it's a rather an ambiguous role, because to be a cunning woman, the authorities would call it witchcraft, really. So cunning women can get into trouble with the law if they fall out with their clients.
To Janet and the family, it was a fact of life that a person might have the power to heal or harm through the use of charms or spells. To them, it wasn't mumbo-jumbo, it was real. It happened.
Witches are people who do bad things. Cunning women are people who do cunning women.
At Malkin Tower, Janet lived with her grandmother, her mother Elizabeth, and her elder sister and brother, Alison and James. There were no adult men. Elizabeth's husband had died 11 years earlier, and 9-year-old Janet wasn't his child. She grew up knowing that she was the runt of the litter and the bastard daughter of the house. I think that would have made her feel isolated, indifferent, even cursed. In the later investigations, it became clear that Janet's world was populated by demons. Janet's grandmother was not the only cunning woman in the neighbourhood. Old Chattox, the head of a nearby household, was a rival for her business, and the Devises believed her to be a witch. For some years, Elizabeth's husband had been making payments of oatmeal to Chattox. The year the payment was not made, he died. At most times in history, such family squabbles would have passed by unnoticed, but these weren't usual times.
England around 1600 is a country in the grip of conversion experience. Officially it had turned Protestant about 40 years before, but it had taken 2 generations for that really to sink in. So around about 1600, a lot of the English are in the grip of enthusiastic Protestantism for the first time.
And now that England was Protestant, Catholics were increasingly feared as seditious and evil.
The idea that there are people out in Lancashire who are adhering to old religious ways can be transferred quite easily to the idea that these people are actually dangerous dissenters who need to be suppressed.
To devout English Protestants, the Bible brackets idolaters, heathens, sorcerers together. And so Catholicism, which is itself to Protestants a demonic religion, can come to look very closely related to witchcraft.
Prefer a GLP-1 pill to lose weight? So, I never intended to be super skinny. I've always been a big guy, but because I noticed how unhealthy I felt when I was bigger, I just wanted to feel healthy. And then my friend told me about weight loss by Hims. Hims is now offering the Wegovy pill,
an affordable GLP-1 that's FDA approved for weight loss. You can get started for just $39 a month with an active HIMSS membership. You take an online assessment, then connect with a licensed provider
who determines if a prescription is right for you. Are you ready to see progress? Take the online consultation to get started.
After a 12-hour shift, this is the last message I wanted to see. And to of course, my car's on E, and all I have is $12 in my bank account. And with payday 1 week away, everything just felt hopeless. But I know Tilt's got my back. Tilt can hook you up with a cash advance up to $500, sent straight to your bank account. No interest, no credit check, and no late fees. Life can get tough sometimes, but Tilt will keep you afloat.
These were nervy, apprehensive times at court and throughout the country. And in that climate of fear, it didn't take much to arouse suspicion. On March 18th, 1612, Janet's teenage sister, Alison Devis, was out and about, walking down a lane. Along the way, she met a peddler, and being a beggar, she asked the peddler for some pins, but he wouldn't open his pack, and he walked on. For Alison, this would have been an everyday experience. Probably several times a week, people would brush past her or ignore her, and she probably responded to their rudeness by cursing them. On March 18th, she cursed, brushed past her, opened his pack, and he walked on. For Alison, this would have been an everyday experience. Probably several peddler for some pins. But here, it didn't take much to arouse suspicion. On March 18th, 1612, Janet's teenage sister, Alison Devis, was out and about, walking down a lane. Along the way, she met a peddler, and being a beggar, she asked the peddler for some pins, but he wouldn't open his pack, and he walked on. For Alison, this would have been an everyday experience. Probably several times a week, people would brush past her or ignore her, and she probably responded to their rudeness by cursing them. On March 18th, she cursed the peddler, and the curse seemed to work, because he fell to the floor and, unable to speak or move, he was eventually carried to a local inn. And Alison was terrified because she knew she'd bewitched him. She rushed to his bedside and begged for his forgiveness. From the legal records, we have a very detailed description of the peddler's condition following his collapse. His head is drawn awry, his eyes and face deformed, his speech not well to be understood, his arms lame, especially the left side. What would you say that was a description of?
I think there's very little doubt that those symptoms reflect the fact that he has had a stroke. The face being awry, the left arm not working. I mean, something coming on that suddenly really can only be a stroke.
Alison seemed convinced that she had caused this stroke through bewitching him, and blamed herself and agonized over it. Is there any logic in that?
From the description, were significantly linked. Look, as a scientist, yes, the curse causing him to become very upset and to put the blood pressure up and to cause him to then have a stroke. And exactly the same situation these days could happen as a result of road rage or an argument, or some devastating piece of medical information being given to somebody can result in people having a stroke.
What's so striking for me is that Alison was in no doubt that she'd nearly killed a man. Perhaps she really had. It was her fear and her own contrition that would lead directly to her downfall, and that of all her family as well. The consequences of Alison's curse spiraled out of control when the peddler's outraged son reported the incident to an ambitious local magistrate, Roger Knoll.
England has justice of the peace dotted all over the place, and they...
The law. Some of them are not very good, some of them are very lazy, some of them are extremely zealous indeed. Roger Knoll is one of those zealous types. He's ambitious, he's a Protestant, and he sees that actually there is room.
Roger Knoll. I think it's likely that a little sister Janet would have been pretty freaked out by it too. Alison's statement escalated the investigation. Chattox and her daughter were very ready to point the finger back at the Devis family and accuse Granny Demdike of witchcraft too. Nowell realised that he was no longer investigating a single incident, but was now heading up a major witch hunt, rooting the evil out of Pendle. On April the 2nd, Nowell made his first arrests. Janet's sister and Granny, as well as her neighbours, Chattox and Anne, were all shipped off to distant Lancaster Castle to await trial. Roger Knoll was confident that these arrests would please the king.
Let me show how to make your iPhone brand new. Most people keep using it with full storage, and live photos make it even worse. Number one is taking too many live photos without even noticing. Number two is deleting all the apps on the phone. Number three is buying extra.
Just a year before the arrests in Pendle, the King James Bible was published and laid out in stark words, "Thou shalt not suffer a witch to live." I've come here to Oxford in search for a book, not the King James Bible, but a book James wrote himself.
James
It's actually a rather clever piece of work, and it's a mandate to the British to hunt witches. This is an original 1597 edition of James's Demonology, written, says here at the
Thank you for
beginning.
choosing Burger King where you roll. What can I get for you?
Yeah, I've got a DoorDash for Charles.
Okay, you can go ahead and pull around to the second window.
All right, thank you.
Now, would you not agree that the prosecutor is on board on the same page that the audio is important? So therefore, since there is no audio, the prosecutor got a look here. She wants to know what is going on inside the vehicle. Is Mustafa arguing with his girlfriend? So you would agree that the prosecutor agrees that the audio is important. What's going on inside the vehicle is important. If we had the audio, we wouldn't have to have a lip reader. Now, would you not agree that the prosecutor is on board on the same page that the audio? You would agree that the prosecutor agrees that the audio is important. What's going on inside the vehicle is important. If we had the audio, we wouldn't have to have a lip reader. Now, my question for the prosecutor: why? This is a motion to dismiss that was filed in the Mustafa Al-Jazari case.
I accidentally stuck the receipt backwards. I apologize.
You're good. Thank you. Have a good night.
His entire parliament had very nearly been blown up by Guy Fawkes and his team of Catholic terrorists in the failed gunpowder plot. And although Fawkes had been captured, some of the conspirators were still at large.
It's perfectly reasonable if you're an early modern monarch to be. And James there's no shortage of potential conspiracies out there.
He's got a dad who's been strangled after an attempt to blow him up, a mother whose head has been hacked off an English prison, and there have been at least 2 attempts to kidnap him, maybe one to murder him. No wonder he's scared. And shortly after he arrives in England, some of his Catholic subjects try to blow him to smithereens, along with the rest of Parliament. He's a king who is exceptionally nervous of conspiracy. The plotters who were caught were trying to flee to safety. And the place where they expected to find it was Lancashire. In March 1612, local JPs had received an order from London that they were to compile a report of all those who refused to take communion in church in an effort to root out the Lancashire Catholics. It was a crude but hopefully effective loyalty test. All those that do not come to the church and there communicate must be presented and further proceeded against. Fail not herein at your peril. And here, look, one of the order signatories was Roger Noel. There's no question about it. On Good Friday, 1612, every loyal subject should have been in church. Instead, at Malkin Tower, Janet's mother threw a party, and to feed the guests, brother stole a sheep. Of course, there would be friends absent from the gathering. Alison and Granny Demdike, along with the neighbours, were now awaiting trial in Lancaster Castle. What happened in that house on that day would become the subject of intense scrutiny over the following months. There were guests at Malkin Tower. Was it an Easter party? Just friends round for lunch? Was it a solidarity meeting of those relatives of the prisoners held in Lancaster Castle? Or was it a gathering of witches? The local constable hears a whisper that there is a meeting of witches at Malkin Tower and arrives suddenly at the door with his men. Afterwards, with echoes of the recent gunpowder plot, they would be accused of conspiring to blow up Lancaster Castle and to murder its jailer. Everyone present was arrested, but the family at Malkin Tower did not come quietly. They told the constable that there'd been more people at the party who had left already. You'll never guess who you just missed. So the others implicated were also arrested. They were all accused of plotting to kill a man by witchcraft. By the time he'd finished, Noel was definitely 1612, but she wasn't taken away with the others. The people rounded up at the party were from the lowest possible walks of life in the area. Colin Nutter lives here, and many other relatives live nearby, and always have. Colin, I think I'm right in saying that there aren't many Nutters in Yorkshire, but there are quite a few over here, aren't there?
Oh yes. Oh yes, there are quite a lot of them here.
So how did somebody like Alice Nutter be caught up in the witch trials?
I think she was in the wrong place at the wrong time, really, with Alice Nutter.
What would Roger Noel's motivation have been?
The Nutters at that point were a strong Catholic family, and I think he would curry favour with the king and the powers that be if he catching Catholics as well. You see, she had 2 relatives who were priests who were homegrown and quartered. One of them in Tyburn and one in Lancaster.
So as far as Noel was concerned, she was just another one of these troublemaking Catholics then?
Exactly, and she would have been used as a pawn for his own ends, really.
It seems pretty unlikely to me that Alice Nutter and her friends spent Good Friday eating stolen mutton at shit towers with the local beggars. But whatever the truth, they were rounded up, arrested, and taken to Lancaster Castle.
If you know how to sell Unvinted, just snap a photo and list in minutes. That's it. The buyer pays for shipping, and there are no selling fees. Download Vinted and list your first item today.
Lancaster Castle has remained a working prison right up until spring of 2011. This is still known as the Witch's Tower. The castle is huge, but the cell that they were held in wasn't. Inside it were all of Janet's family. A gran, a mother, a brother, a sister, plus all the neighbours, Chattocks, Anne, Isabel Roby, Margaret Pearson, Alice Nutter, John Jane Bulcock, and Catherine Hewitt, plus 8 other prisoners in a space 20 feet by 12 feet, 20 people in all. As for Janet, we don't know where she spent the 4 months his family were imprisoned. It's possible that she lived under the protection of Roger Knoll, as she was about to become crucial to the case he was winning. Right at the end of his demonology, King James wrote something that became especially relevant for the case of the Pendle Witches. And here it is. Here's what the king says. In my opinion, barns or wives are never so defamed persons. That's children, women and liars all lumped in together. May of our law serve for sufficient witnesses and proofs in matters of high treason against God. That's telling Noel and other magistrates in the country two really important things. That witchcraft is treason, not just against the king, but by extension, also against God himself. And secondly, he's saying the law should allow children to testify in court. In fact, two judges in this case, a jury, witnesses and the defendants. And all the while, Thomas Potts was scribbling the verbatim notes which will become his best-selling book.
The outcome of the trial was far from being a foregone conclusion. Probably less than half of accused witches actually are convicted and executed. And the set of records, which we average are very reliable for this, suggest it's probably more like 75% of it.
Whatever the odds, for Janet's sister, whose curse had started the whole affair, things didn't look good. Poor Alison Davis. She didn't even want to defend herself. She was completely convinced of her own guilt. Her words had caused the pedal to collapse, and that terrified her. She was asked in court if the magic hour she could restore the pedal to its health and strength, but regretfully she said that she couldn't. She did say, though, and others in the that her grandmother would have been able to help her. But in the 4 months of waiting for the trial to begin, Thomas Potts had some sympathy for Alison. He liked his witches desperate and contrite. Her mother was neither. response was vile about her. He wrote that this odious witch was branded with a preposterous medal.
Did she tell the judge in a motion to dismiss that the audio is incompetent? Now, the prosecutor came out and she said her argument is, Your Honor, this audio is not important. Wait a minute. This audio is not important. Then, why did you hire a lip reader to lip read what Dorothy and Mustafa are saying inside the vehicle? If it's not important. Alright, we know you're bullshitting us at this point. Now, the prosecutor came out and she said her argument is, Your Honor, this audio is not important. Wait a minute. This audio is not important. Then, why did you hire a lip reader to lip read what Dorothy and Mustafa are saying inside the vehicle? If it's not important. Alright, we know you're bullshitting us at this point. Now, the prosecutor came out and she said her argument is, Your Honor, this audio is not important. Wait a minute. This audio is not important. Then, why did you hire a lip reader to lip read what Dorothy and Mustafa are saying inside the vehicle? If it's not important. Alright, we know you're
which was her left eye standing lower than the other, the one looking down, the other looking up. So strangely deformed as the best that were present did affirm that they had not often seen the like. 400 years ago, it wasn't common for a witness to be brought to testify in the courtroom itself. But on the 18th of August, 1612, a star witness was being prepared to take the stand. Elizabeth Davis was furious and protested her innocence. But then her 9-year-old daughter Janet was brought to testify against her. Elizabeth was distraught. She yelled at her desperately. Janet burst into tears. She was only a little girl after all, before turning to the judge and asking that her mother be taken away before she would speak. Once Elizabeth had been silenced and Janet had her audience, she jumped up onto a table and calmly denounced her own mother as a witch.
Prefer a GLP-1 pill to lose weight? So, I never intended to be super skinny. I've always been a big guy. But because I noticed how unhealthy I felt when I was bigger, I just wanted to feel healthy. And then my friend told me about weight loss by Hims. Hims is now offering the Wegovy pill, an affordable GLP-1 that's FDA approved for weight loss. You can get started for just $39 a month with an active Hims membership. You take an online assessment, then connect with a...
When I was a probation officer many moons ago, I spent a lot of time sitting in the Crown Courts of Lancashire, a lot of them old and intimidating cockpits like this. And some of the cases involved evidence from children because the legal system these days is very sensitive in its handling of young people. We'll never know why Janet Davis said what she said, but standing on the table, centre stage in the middle of this moral and political and legal drama, I can't help think that she was reciting her lines.
My mother is a witch, and that I know to be true. I have seen her spirit in the likeness of a brown dog, which she called Paul. The dog did ask what she would have him do, and she answered that she would have him help her to kill. John Robinson of Borland, James Robinson, Henry Mitten.
Janet went on to describe the meeting at Malkin Tower on Good Friday.
So that in something like Janet Davis, there's something horrific about exploiting a child who is so young, and I think people may have felt that at the time too. But at the same time, she could well be the means to cracking open this secret ring of witchcraft.
It wasn't just Janet who testified against Elizabeth. Her son James denounced her too. He said that 3 skulls had been robbed from graves at the new church in Pendle, and 4 of the teeth then kept at Malkin Tower. 4 teeth were then presented in court, which had been found at Malkin Tower by the constable, alongside a clay figure, all buried together in the ground. But giving evidence against his mother wouldn't help him, because Janet turned on her own.
Karen, hello.
Hi. Did you talk with them?
Talk with the guy that you told me about earlier?
Uh-huh.
No, I didn't talk to anybody. I've been door dashing all day.
He came in. He was in the live a minute ago.
Uh-huh. Okay.
I'll send him another invitation because I'm sure he's wanting to set something up with you.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. I mean, all the evidence is on the platform. That would be great. I mean, if he takes a look at it and he has his platform shed some light on what's coming out of this county, I mean, that would be great.
Yeah, he said he definitely wanted to interview you live on his show. He comes on at 8 o'clock every night. And he was sort of familiar with it.
I think before we set,
he came in here.
Yeah, I mean, Karen, I think before we set anything up like that, I think he needs to be a little bit more familiar with the case. There's a lot of details to this case.
I think he will be.
Yeah, like do you see what I'm going with this? Yeah.
Yeah, I think he will be. I've seen him some of the stuff, some of the videos, and I'm pretty sure, that he'll check into it to where that he can interview you.
We'll see. I mean, before we set anything up like an interview or anything, I think he needs to be a little bit more familiar with the case, if that makes any kind of sense.
Oh yeah, it does, and obviously he's interested or he wouldn't have come into your live.
I mean, yeah, like there's no sense to interviewing me if you don't know anything about this case. Does that make sense?
Hi, Damon.
Karen, did you hear what I said?
How are you? No, you were cutting out.
No, I said there's no point of interviewing me if he doesn't know the details of this case. He needs to be a little bit more familiar with what's going on in this case, what this county is doing, what the county claimed versus what evidence is leaking out of this case before we set any kind of interview with him. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. But without, more conversation, I'm sure that he will do that because he's very thorough in all of the cases that he interviews with.
We'll see. We will see.
So I'm sure that he'll do his homework with it.
Absolutely.
This guy isn't a flake at all.
Karen, how long do you know this guy for?
How long do I know this guy?
Yeah.
I've been following him a short time on, you can look him up. He's, his credentials are there.
Uh-huh. Well, we'll see. We'll find out. You know what I mean? I mean, if he's interested in a case,
Okay. Yeah.
He's got all the information. It's all on the internet. So, Do I think it's helpful for me to just jump on his platform and start doing an interview? No, I think it's pointless. I think if he is interested in this case, I think he needs to look at what the county has said on the news, FOIA request the material that's available, and cross-reference it with the body cam that I already released, and then we can talk about interviews and going on his platform. I think we're jumping a lot of steps here, if that makes any kind of sense. You don't know him, I don't know him, we don't know who this guy is.
Well, yeah, it does, but I think without any initial
Karen, Karen,
conversation with him, it's kind of a stalemate.
Karen.
So I think it would do you good to talk to him first and explain to him what all that you're looking for.
But here's the thing. I think you would agree that if I were to sit with somebody and do an interview and find out that that person is just a troll, I think it's counterproductive to what we're doing here. I'm not saying he is, I'm saying we don't know him. Does that make sense?
Right. Yeah. I will send you what I know about him.
Yeah, I mean, I've already done my homework on him, but we don't know who he is. Okay? I mean, you just met him. You said you don't know him for a long time. I don't know who this guy is. And let's find out who he is. Let's see if he's really interested in getting to the bottom of the truth. Okay? Let's see if it's not just another platform that trolls cases. I mean, we've seen a lot of them on TikTok. Okay? Let's find out if he's really interested in getting to the bottom of the truth. If he's an actual platform, that'll be great. He's going to be shedding some light on this case. But to just jump on a random platform, I don't know who this guy is. You don't know who this guy is. And then find out that, hey, this is just another platform that's trying to troll the case. I think it's going to be counterproductive. So let's slow down the conversation. Let's send him the information. Let's have him look at what this case is all about. Let's find out where he is in this case. And then we can set something up like an interview or whatever. But I think we're skipping a whole lot of steps.
Yeah.
So
well, that'll be great. Just you're right. I think that it's just
Brother too. Janet said that James had been a witch for 3 years. She'd seen his spirit kill 3 people. She then went on to recite charms she said she'd heard her brother use.
Upon Good Friday, I will fast while I may. A cross of blue and another of red, as good Lord was to the rude. He laid him down to sleep upon the ground.
What we've got here is a series of half understood, maybe quarter understood recollections of prayers, practices, rites of popular Catholicism, and a bit of a play text.
That I can neither sleep nor wake. Rise up, Gabriel, and
swirled together into something that would sound impressive to a listener as a healing.
Sweet Jesus, our Lord, Amen.
Potts was in his testimony. In fact, he seemed to relish her calm, clear, and chilling account. Although she were but very young, yet it was wonderful to the court with what honesty, government, and understanding she delivered this evidence against the prisoner at the bar, being her own natural brother.
An adult would know that what they were saying was likely to lead to Mum and Grandma being hanged. And I don't think Janet did really know in the way an adult would know. I think she only knew it intellectually and not emotionally. And that's why I think her mother screams at her.
Is your mattress giving you aches and pains? At Mattress Firm, our sleep experts can match you with a more supportive mattress like the Tempur-Pedic Adapt. Each unique Tempur material uses your pressure points. And right now, get 0% interest for 72 months. Mattress Firm, we make sleep easy.
Wait, no selling fees on Vinted? Yep, earn cash from homeware. Fashion, sports gear, collectibles, books, toys, and more. Just download the app, snap your items, add a detailed description to your listing, choose all the correct info, and set your price. Get ready to sell across all kinds of categories. And with no selling fees, you keep all the money you earn. Turn household clutter into cash on Vinted. Don't use it? Sell it.
In the way she does. I think her mother is desperately trying, at least to make her realize what she's done.
She's clearly a rather odd child. She's extremely articulate. She clearly doesn't like her family. She's a bit different from the others. We don't know who her father was. She's the only illegitimate child. And clearly either she's really terrified of the magistrates and determined to save herself at all costs, or more probably, it gives her a chance for all sorts of concealed resentments and animosities against her family to explode lethally.
I think we need to imagine that she believes in the reality of witchcraft and that these people really are witches and that she seeks to distance herself from them. Of course, she's also being put under a great deal of pressure. It may be direct pressure, it may just be the atmospheric pressure of the courtroom, the tension of all these men around her who are telling her that in fact witchcraft has taken place and that she's the linchpin in punishing it.
It wasn't just her own family Janet was prepared to denounce as witches. Alice Nutter and her friends were more well-to-do, and the judge was more demanding of evidence against them. He arranged identity parades, mixing them in with other prisoners from the castle. One by one, Janet picked them out.
You were there on Good Friday. You had had on the prettiest dress. You ate the mutton. You were sitting right by me.
In an attempt to catch her out, the judge then asked, "Did you see Joanna's style, a made-up name?"
No, sir, I never heard of her.
Most of the early modern witch hunters rely
Karen,
on the
hello,
Bible
hello.
and/or the text by the great continental demonologists as their
Hello.
Karen, how are you?
Okay.
My other complaint or my other concern is I think you're struggling now to even identify a suspect. I hope, and I believe this is what occurred here, they honed in on this person of interest.
Karen, I'll be right back, okay?
Yeah. Here's my concern. They had this video. They released a Emmy. Karen, hello, hello.
Hello, hello.
How are you?
Good.
Karen, what time is it at your place right now?
11:30.
11:30. It's 12 here. What are you doing right now?
12:30.
What are you doing? How was your day?
Good. I just got through unloading my groceries from Walmart.
Okay. All right.
I live 30 miles from there.
30 miles from Walmart.
Yeah, 30 miles from the next town, period.
That's crazy.
Well, that's what you get when you live in a little community.
Which state are you from?
Oklahoma.
Oklahoma.
I am from Texas, but I live in Oklahoma now.
Uh-huh. Do you like it?
I love it.
$8.15 offer 4.8 offer accepted. We'll add it to your route.
$8 for 4 miles. Not a bad deal.
I sent you a DM with some information on him, and I'm searching a little further for you. See what else I can pull up on him.
Yeah, I mean, maybe we can get him to call the prosecution office and tell and ask why haven't they done the inspection on the vehicle. I think that's a good start.
Oh yeah.
I mean, he wants to know what's going on out of this county, right? I mean,
he lives in West Virginia.
Oh, okay, even better. I mean, it sounds like, look, it sounds like him being from Virginia. This sounds like his mess. Okay, since he has a platform, okay, it sounds like it's his mess. Okay, our question is, what's coming out of your what's coming out of your state, sir?
Right.
So, Karen, do you agree? This is his mess, him being from Virginia.
Well, he's retired. He just lives there.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, him being from Virginia, it kind of makes it his mess, doesn't it?
Oh, okay. Well, I don't know that.
Look, he has a platform that gets to the bottom of what goes on in cases, right?
Right.
He's from Virginia, right?
Right.
So that's his mess. This would make it his mess. If the county is messing up, if his state is messing up, if they're falsifying a case, wouldn't you agree that would be his mess to clean up? To get to the bottom of it? To hold those involved accountable?
Right, I would think so. But like I said, he's not that familiar with it. He has seen you on your platform. He knows you don't have very many people that look at it. It's not very well exposed.
Karen, I love you. I love you. How could he?
Okay.
It's all over the news. This case is all over NBC4. How could he not be familiar with it? He's from Virginia. This case is coming out of Virginia.
Well, I don't know how familiar he is.
I'm saying this is a public case that's all over the news. It's not like a case that's like that no one knows about. Do you see what I'm talking? Do you see where I'm going with this?
I agree.
All you gotta do is type Mustafa's name up on Google.
Sort of. Right. I don't know how far he's looked into it, okay? All I know is I talked with him. He said yes, he was very interested in it, and he wanted to talk with you. He came into your life, and that's about all that I can disclose on it.
Yeah, we'll see.
I really don't think that I was guided. I really don't think that I was guided into just happening onto this. God doesn't work that way. You know that.
Yeah, but God gave us
The fact that
Yeah, look, God gave us logic. God gave us a brain. God gave us, told us to go out there and get to the get to the bottom of what's going on. Okay, like, look, you've been here for a while. I've been here for a while. This case has been here for a while, and you don't find it interesting that our favorite friend, the great advocate Labubu, is now all over this guy? Come on now. You don't find that interesting?
You know, I understand where you're coming from, Omar. I really do. Out of all that you've been through, all of these years with it, I can understand.
All I'm saying
that.
is,
that you know, you're.
All I'm saying is, you just have to be careful from, like, these platforms that want to say, "Oh, I'm here to find the truth," and next thing you know, you're being trolled all over that platform. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying it is. I'm just saying we haven't seen one video covering this case. He hasn't talked about it. All he wants is, he wants to get me on an interview. What are we talking about? What are we talking about? Let's slow down the conversation. Let's find out if he's really honest about finding the truth. That's all I'm saying.
Okay, that's fine. And the only way that you are going to be satisfied with that information is if you speak with him.
No, not really. I'm not really interested in talking to him.
That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, like, I'm really not interested.
Okay.
I'm not interested to give anybody interviews. I'm not interested to talk to anybody. This case is all over the news, and now you've got a file that's being leaked. For anybody that wants to get to the bottom of it, the information is all there. You don't need me to weigh in on a situation. Obviously, I've got a platform, and I'm talking about what I'm seeing, but why don't you tell me what you're seeing? I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about, like, him or anybody that has a platform. Do you need me to be on your platform to interview me? Obviously not. Okay? Obviously not. Okay? Because the material is all there. You've got Julie Carey all over the news. She's telling you what the county is saying. And now you got a file with a bunch of body cams and documents that is being leaked out of this case that show everything that they've said is a lie. Now, if you're an investigative journalist, you can take all that information and get to the bottom of it. You don't need the brother to be on the platform to interview him. I mean, here's my question. Here's my real question. I mean, where is Amy Hodson, that's on a body cam, aka Christine Alcazar, from reaching out to this guy? I mean, we've seen her reach out to every single person that I've reached out to. Why hasn't she reached out to this guy? That's not a red flag for you, Karen? Come on now, Karen. I'm not a schmuck. I know you're not a schmuck.
I don't know. I'm not.
Okay? I wasn't born yesterday, and I know you weren't born yesterday. And I think it's good to slow down the conversation and see.
That's fine. I think that's a good idea. I wouldn't expect anything any different.
So.
I'm not as excited as I was that you were going to have an opportunity to talk to him, and just from what you said, it just seems to me like you just flat drawn. You don't want to talk to the man. Because
No,
you want to know so much more about it.
no,
You know?
not
And
really.
I don't know why he does or he doesn't know any more about it than what he does.
But you do know where I'm coming from, right?
I do. I did. I told you I understood that.
Okay.
I do.
I just think it'll be counterproductive to jump on someone's platform and then you find out later it's just there to troll the case. Wouldn't you agree?
I don't know. Why don't you just read what that I've sent you on some of this research that I've done on him, and I don't know, maybe do whatever you need to do to where you're satisfied one way or the other.
Wait, hold on.
That you even need to talk to him. Or
You don't
not.
see what I'm talking about? You don't agree that it's counterproductive if I jump on a platform that's gonna be trolling me? I'm not saying it will. I'm not saying this is what his platform is. I'm saying we don't know the guy, and I think it's counterproductive to be on someone's platform that we don't know who that person is. I mean, it's not like this is. It's not.
We're not going to be able to find out what it is if we don't look up on it. If
Well,
you
yeah,
don't look
obviously.
into it.
Obviously, that's of course. I mean, that's why I'm saying let's slow down the conversation. Let's see who this person is. Let him do his own research. Let him take a look at the material that we already put out. Let him make a couple of videos. Let him do a couple of lives on his own and see, so we can see what kind of person we're dealing with. I mean, we're not just gonna jump into on a platform. I mean, look, being here for a while, we've all seen where we have individuals that claim to be advocates only to find out that they're trolling us.
I understand that. I do understand that.
Karen, I'm gonna switch you from the cell phone to my other device. If it gets disconnected, I'm gonna send you a request to come up, okay?
Okay.
I love you, okay? It looks like it's gonna end the live, but I'm gonna send you a request. There you are.
I'm going to go ahead and finish putting up. I'm going to go ahead and finish putting up the rest of my groceries, and I'll be back on here with you. Are you going to be on for a while?
Yeah, I'll be here for a while.
Okay, I'll be right back when I get my stuff put up.
All right, Karen. I'll talk to you in a little bit, okay?
Okay.
Love you.
All right.
The lecture witch trials are really unusual in that they ignore these pretty well completely and fast on the King's own book, King James's Demonology. And in a way that's extremely rare, they're plainly ticking boxes. King James says witches use body parts for evil magic. Body parts are found in the lecture witch's property.
Built like a man whose hobby was breaking people and whose day job was the same thing. 30-second survival test. Any student who lasts 30 seconds against me without using abilities gets a passing grade. Fail, and you're expelled. Students looked at each other. A few took a small step backward without seeming to notice they'd done it. Dell called his nephew Rex first. Rex stepped into the ring with the confidence of someone who'd read the answer key. And honestly, he had. Dell threw the opening punch wide left. Wide enough that Rex didn't even need to move his feet. He just turned his shoulder and let it miss. The second swing came in slow, telegraphed from the hip rotation, barely accelerating by the time it arrived. Rex slipped it with a half step and a grin. The room clapped, relieved. They thought they just watched a fair test.
Time, 30 seconds exactly. Rex passes with a clean record.
Rex walked out smirking. I watched Dell's feet the whole time. Not one of those punches had real weight behind them. Hips never rotated, feet never fully committed.
They make clean images. Oops, that's what amateur witches are supposed to be doing. Children are extremely useful as witnesses. Wow, we suddenly have Janet. So what these people are doing is looking upwards to the monarch as their fountain of wisdom.
The evidence against the prisoners had stacked up perfectly.
We tend to assume that witchcraft was just one big delusion, and therefore that the witches who were convicted were in fact innocent. But accused witches believed in witchcraft too. And I think it's improbable to think that witches never tried to use magic in order to kill somebody. Well, today we prosecute people and punish them if they attempt a crime but are unsuccessful. So the witches of 1612, by that measure, were they innocent?
By the end of the two-day trial, the jury had decided that all of Janet's family and most of her neighbours were guilty of causing death or harm by witchcraft. 10 people were sentenced to hang. Elizabeth Devis, Alison Devis, James Devis, Anne Whittle, Anne Redfern, Isabel Roby, Alice Nutter, Jane Bulcock, John Bulcock, Catherine Hewitt. The day after the trial, the 10 convicted prisoners were brought to a place still known as Gallows Hill.
This was a piece of state theatre. This was the moment when the majesty of God and the majesty of the law were very much focused on this one event, and everybody could see the power of it. The critical moment, the witch was led out, forced to climb the ladder, a noose put over her neck, and then at that moment the crowd went rather quiet. They didn't die from having a neck broken, but from slow strangulation that might take as long as 20 minutes. In fact, there are accounts of friends and family coming forward and pulling on the legs of the poor person being executed in order to hasten their end.
Condemned prisoners were expected to make one final confession. It was a last chance to save their souls, though not, of course, their lives. We're told that Elizabeth and Alice Nutter never confessed, not even with their dying words. These days. For me, the most chilling thought about what happened here was the idea that Janet might well have been watching the hangings, and the last thing that Elizabeth might have seen as she looked out from the gallows might have been the face of her daughter, the child who put her there. We don't know anything about what happened to the orphaned Jenny Devis.
Now, the prosecutor came out and she said her argument is, Your Honor, this audio is not important.
You're not on the party patches.
Did you lose the card?
Now, the prosecutor came out. Now, here's a question for the judge. Presiding judge. We all agree that this audio is important. The county is saying Mustafa and Dorothy are arguing inside the vehicle. Wouldn't you think that the judge is gonna rule? Yes, this audio is important. Would you be surprised to find out that the judge ruled that the audio is not important? Now here's a question for the judge, the presiding judge. We all agree that this audio is important. The county is saying Mustafa and Dorothy are arguing inside the vehicle. Wouldn't you think that the judge is gonna rule? Yes, this audio is important. Would you be surprised to find out that the judge ruled that the audio is not important? Now here's a question for the judge, the presiding judge. We all agree that this audio is important. The county is saying Mustafa and Dorothy are arguing inside the vehicle. Wouldn't you think that the judge is gonna rule? Yes, this audio is important. Would you be surprised to find out that the judge ruled that the audio is not important? Now,
argued that they weren't her last victims. Thanks to Potts's published account, Janet's influence would travel far beyond Lancashire. Although there had been earlier cases of children being heard as witnesses in witch trials, the law stated that children under the age of 14 were not credible witnesses as they could not be sworn under oath. But that was set to change. Imagine you're a 17th century JP or magistrate. You're not trained in the law like the judges are, but you need to investigate, question witnesses, and compile a case for the assize. What you need is one handy book that gives you all the basics, something that you can just pull off the shelf whenever you need it. The Country Justice is that book. It's by a man called Dalton and was first published in 1618. This handbook was used by all magistrates, both here and in the colonies in America. You've got some people accused of witchcraft, so you look up advice on witnesses, see page 541. And here it is. For children, I find in the book of the discovery of witches at Lancaster Assizes, that's Thomas Potts's book, that the son and daughter, that's Janet and James, of Elizabeth Devis, a witch, here we go, the one about 9 years of age, the other of 14, did, on their oaths, give open evidence against their mother, then prisoner at the bar. So what Janet did in 1612 ended up giving a precedent to magistrates, not just here, but across the Atlantic, to seek the testimony of children in trials of witchcraft. And before we say that this is outrageous, let's remember that today there are still trials which rely on child testimony due to lack of alternative witnesses. Today, the testimony of children as young as 3 has been used in criminal trials. The law says that they have to understand the questions put to them and to give answers which are understandable.
Yeah, I've got a
The
DoorDash
most
to go.
extraordinary thing was that Janet herself would come to fall victim to the very precedent she set. In November 1633, 22 years after the 9-year-old Janet testified against her family, a 10-year-old boy from Pendle came home late one evening and told his parents a very strange story. Edmund Robinson explained that the reason he was late was that he'd been picking berries. And while gathering berries, he said he'd seen 2 greyhounds. I tried to get them to chase a hare, but they didn't run, so I beat them with a stick. One of the dogs turned into a witch, and the other into a boy. And she then turned him into a horse. The witch took me away on the horse to that house, Horstones. And their barn was full of witches, maybe 60 of them. And from the ceiling there were all these ropes hanging down. They were pulling on the ropes, and amazing food came falling down. I was so frightened, so I ran away. They chased me for ages. And before I got home, I met a boy with cloven hooves. So I fought him. That's why I'm so scruffy. It's not my fault. which seems to have been accepted as a genuine reason for lateness, somewhat surprisingly. After hearing this story, the boy's father took him from village to village to stand in the churches and point out the witches he had seen for 3 months. The curate of a local church described seeing Edmund at work. The boy was brought into the church of Kildwick and was set upon a stall to look about him, which moved some little disturbance in the congregation for a while. And after prayers, the people told me that it was the boy that discovered witches.
Sound familiar?
Of Edmund's bizarre story, about 20 people were imprisoned and put on trial in February 1634. One of them was called Janet Davis, accused of killing Isabel. Why?
Now here's a question. The judge, the presiding judge, would you be surprised to find out that the judge ruled that the audio is not important? Now, the motion to dismiss that Blake Weiner filed is based on a case law. The case law is Trump versus California. Now, what does that mean? What is that case law? That case law is that the audio would have to be damaged by the police department, and it doesn't have to be intentionally damaged. That it could be neglect, that they accidentally damaged it. Now, we have evidence that the police department purposely damaged this audio. They edited and cut the dash cam. Mustafa's defense attorney at the time argued that the police department unintentionally destroyed the audio. Therefore, there's a case law, Trombetta versus California, that because they damaged the audio, and this audio is so important to this case, exculpatory evidence, that this case should be dismissed. They destroyed the main piece of evidence. So how could you take this case to trial and get to the bottom of what's going on in this case? Now, the prosecutor came out and she said, her argument is, Your Honor, this audio is not important. Wait a minute. This audio is not important. Then, why did you hire a lip reader to lip read what Dorothy and Mustafa are saying inside the vehicle, if it's not important? Now, here's a question for the judge, the presiding judge. We all agree that this audio is important. The county is saying Mustafa and Dorothy are arguing inside the vehicle. Wouldn't you think that the judge is going to rule, yes, this audio is important? Would you be surprised to find out that the judge ruled that the audio is not important? How is it not important? Would you be surprised to find out that
created America's Crime Briefing so we could bring you the true facts and the real cases to dissect. And are you tired of scrolling through these social media accounts for quote-unquote true crime platforms and it's all drama where you have the same people talking? You don't get to voice your opinion. We do it different. We bring the experts, the men and women who have worn the badge, investigated the hard cases, and solved them, and we bring it right to you guys. Join us and our amazing community Monday through Friday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We created America's Crime Briefing so we could bring you the true facts and the real cases to dissect. And are you tired of scrolling through these social media accounts?
Hello, Carrie.
One more time?
Carrie. Thank you. Thank you. Have a good night.
You as well, thank you.
Of William Nutter.
I can see absolutely no reason to think that it's not the same Janet Dennis from the earlier Lancashire trial that's accused by Edmund Robinson.
The fact that someone of the same name appears as a suspect in the second trial with some of the same families involved in the same place, I think it's very suggestive. I think really there's no reason to suspect that it's not them.
Again, it's the stories that children tell that have such an incredible power. Not only Edmund's story in 1633, but the words Janet used back in 1612 have returned to haunt her. She'd been a witness for the Crown's Nightly Book, but had been spared the rooks. But this time, surely, she'd have.
following month, James I goes to Leicester. He interviews the boy and discovers that he's lying. And then, as a consequence, the judges are very soundly rebuked, and this goes out as a message to other judges to be very, very cautious in witchcraft cases, particularly if your star witness happens to be a child.
And by the time Edmund told his story in 1633, a new king was on the throne. Charles I was even more doubtful about witch hunting than his father had become. And his attitude was firm, and many suspected him being a Catholic. His wife certainly was.
It's true that the most radical Protestants, the people we call Puritans, are the most common of the devil's demons. And as Charles I is a king who is deeply suspicious of Puritanism, he's pretty suspicious of the Count's demons.
So here we are, 22 years later, back in the courtroom. Just as before, a jury listened to a child telling stories of witches. And this time, Jenna was in the dock. And just as before, the jury believed the child to be honest and the prisoners evil. On Edmund's testimony, 17 people were found guilty and should have been sentenced to death. But in this new kind of England, this changed England, the judges weren't happy with these verdicts, and the matter was referred to London, to the King and the Privy Council.